The rulebook doesn't say you have to tackle this journey of life alone. These are the times I make those connections with others, so we can all take a look back while we all move forward. This is the Dependent Independent Podcast.
MiniSode.
Hey there, subscribers. Thank you for downloading and listening to MiniSode 42 and a half of the Dependent Independent Podcast. I'm your host, Nick G. This is a podcast about making connections, looking back while moving forward. In our minisodes, we get our subscribers caught up on what they missed in our last episode, what's been going on with me since our last episode, and what they can anticipate in future episodes. If you haven't already done so, and this is the first time you're coming on this show, or at least listening and downloading this show, and you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. You can see our show on YouTube. Actually, we record all our minisodes and post them on YouTube every Thursday, but our normal show posts every Tuesday, minisode, full show, minisode, full show. You can follow us and subscribe to the show on any podcast app on iOS and Android. I actually made it easier for you. I had no idea I could do this, which I should have known. I hyperlinked all of our podcast feeds, iTunes, Libsyn, Stitcher, in the show description notes. So you can just click on those and it'll take you to whatever you prefer. You can stream it off of our Facebook page at the Dependent Independent Podcast page. Follow it. Our followers are going up, which is really cool. We're creating somewhat of a community. Almost after nearly 2 years doing this. You can follow me on Twitter at dependent_Nick. You can email the show at thedependentindependent@gmail.com. And everything you need to know about staying in touch with me and the show and our community is in the show description notes. I know they call them show notes. I always call them in the description of the show, but I'm going to start changing that. Recently went to a podcasting convention. They talked about pivoting. So I'm going to go on the same path and just pivot a little bit. Thanks, Ramona. My minisode. Things have been going great, actually, since probably a couple of minisodes ago, which is weird. I'm taking this whole creative thing seriously, and especially since we just closed out that podcast convention. I posted on our Twitter page and our Facebook page. Jen Crawford, the host of Jellyvision, did probably one of the best shout-outs I've ever had on a podcast. I've been on a couple, but it's probably the best shout-outs I've ever had, the most honest shout-out I've ever had. Not that the other ones were dishonest, but this one was great because it was from someone who I connected with over 2 days at the Mid-Atlantic Podcast Convention, which was awesome. I joined a couple boards on Facebook. You get to ask all these questions about podcasting, and they provide you all these answers, which is so cool, so cool. I appreciate everyone that's tried out my show since then. I've gotten a few iTunes reviews. If you haven't already done so, please do that, especially if you're a subscriber. Please go on iTunes and rate the show. It makes me feel good. I like feeling good about myself. Last week on episode 42, I hung out with Jesse Lauren, and we did a podcast on, what did I title it? Please turn to your table of context, boys and girls, about the whole theory of context, how experiences and events in your life change depending on what part of your life you're in, or you can, re-experience things depending on what time of the life you're in or what's really going on. So I really had a great time with Jessie. She's probably one of my most favorite podcasters that doesn't ever do or produce a podcast. She's great on my show. If it was up to me, I'd love to have her on every other week, and she'd be a permanent co-host of the show, but I can't because real life happens. It is a Sunday night, and then I know we usually do a full episode. I'm not going to tease that. I'll talk about it in my full episode. I'm really excited about the co-host we have, actually 2 co-hosts we have for episode 43. So since we last did our show and since I last talked to you, since I last connected, and I appreciate everyone subscribing to the YouTube channel and watching me doing these minisodes. It's an experiment. I kind of want to get through this real quick because I noticed my minisodes are running kind of long, kind of getting deep and spiritual in my minisodes, and I want to make sure that if you are enjoying that on YouTube, that you're not bored to death because you're tuning in for 28 minutes or 25 minutes or what have you. So I'm going to see if I can get this under 15 minutes. Since I last spoke to you, most of the news I actually consume is from the internet. We don't have cable in this house. Everything we do is streaming, whether it be Hulu, Netflix, Amazon Prime, you name it, we get it. YouTube. Most of the live TV we get is through a PlayStation service called PlayStation View, which is awesome. If you have PlayStation, definitely check it out. For $40 a month, you get like 60 cable channels. And occasionally Megan will hop on and watch the Today Show. But most of my news comes simply from news feeds. And there's 2 things I wanted to go over basically one topic that I really wanted to tackle on this show and I'm kind of coming on the tail end of this topic and its popularity. If you're not paying attention to Clinton with pneumonia or what's his name? What's his name? I wish I could say that. Trump with his hair. There's this thing that happened at a football game. And I hope I believe it's a player named Kaepernick. Am I saying that right? Colin Kaepernick, right? And you probably already know about it. You already know about it. You've seen about it, read about it, heard about it. Probably a high school team in town decided to kneel during the anthem. But when I first saw it, I thought, that's pretty bold, to do that. Probably one of the most sacred things we have in this country is the anthem. We played at the Olympics. I know Usain Bolt, if you guys saw that video on YouTube in the middle of his speech or during one of his interviews after he won the gold medal, he actually stopped the interviewer and turned around and took a moment while they played the U.S. anthem behind him, which I thought was pretty cool and noble. So Kaepernick decides to sit down or kneel down during the anthem at a football game, and the fucking world exploded, right? Everyone suddenly said he's non-patriotic. How dare he, spitting on the flag. He's basically spat in the face of everyone, every soldier, every person who died for this country and bled for that flag and bled for the freedoms that he has, that he could be in the NFL and he could play football and make millions of dollars and so on and so forth. So in the meantime, when I saw that, Jesse the Body Ventura, who was the former wrestler for the WWF, he used to commentate and wrestle when I was a kid, and then he was the governor of Minnesota, ex-Navy SEAL. He basically went on a Facebook post, a video, and talked about how amazing it is that even though you don't have to like it, you don't need to like it or dislike it, but he either likes it or dislikes it, but he says he respects the fact that because we have patriotism, you can do that. You have that right to be able to do that, because a lot of countries you can't. If you've been paying to the current events in Syria, they had a ceasefire. Can you imagine that, where things are so shitty and people are killing each other that the government has to say, can you do me a favor and stop killing people for a day or two so people can go outside and get some fresh air? I mean, we don't even have to do that here. Never, ever, ever will that ever happen here. I doubt it. But I don't think America will ever stand for something like that. But I want to take you back to what got me thinking about this Colin thing and the anthem and this pride and this anthem that's supposed to be as sacred as possible. It's supposed to be the most sacred thing in this country that makes everyone stand at attention, no matter where they are as an American. Back in 1997, my wife and I went to the movies. Occasionally, actually. I worked at a movie theater in college, and then when I lived at home during that summer before I started working at that door-to-door job, which soon enough I'll finish that story on one of these future podcasts. And we went to go see a movie called Saving Private Ryan. Saving Private Ryan, if you don't know, is a movie that was directed by Steven Spielberg, starred Tom Sizemore, Matt Damon, and Tom Hanks, to name a few. And it was one of the most perceived at the time as one of the most realistic war movies that had ever been made. And that goes down to not only the subject matter, but also by the way, diet was so bad this weekend. I've been sucking down burgers and hot dogs. Excuse me. Let me get a drink of water. I'm sorry for you YouTube viewers out there. So Megan and I went to go see Saving Private Ryan. And it had been the second time that I saw it and the first time she saw it. And I remember when we were driving home, I just actually reminded her of this. We stopped at a stop sign, and we both started bawling. I mean, literally bawling. I was crying because all I could think about is that initial scene when the duck boats arrive on Utah Beach and the flaps go down and the gates hit the beach, and these soldiers attempt to walk 2 or 3 feet onto the beachhead and get mowed down by a German machine gun from a bunker no more than 200 yards away. And it's horrific. I mean, that scene was the most horrific thing I'd ever seen. I grew up watching 80s movies. That never happened. Commando, Schwarzenegger went to an island and killed 700 people, didn't take a scratch. I mean, he couldn't miss, but everyone shooting at him missed. So suddenly you're seeing this real life thing, and that stayed with me since 1997 when the movie came out. I believe it was 97. Yeah, it was 97. Was it 97 or was it 98? Let me check. I have the poster hanging up right behind me. 97, cool, that was right. So fast forward, Netflix recently put on a few Steven Spielberg movies. So they put up Jaws, they put up, what else, E.T., and they put Saving Private Ryan. So I decided to squeak in a viewing of that this week, on and off the train and during lunch breaks at work. And again, that wave of heroism and bravery, it's impossible not to get out of that movie. I mean, that's why the poster is hanging up right behind the camera that's videotaping me right now. It's one of the most amazing movies, not because of its film aspects, but what it represents. It represents a storytelling experience of men and women that put themselves in front of a bullet for their country, and some didn't even make it off the boat. Now, when I first saw that movie, I was enamored with World War II, this idea that this good against evil and these young people throwing themselves immediately, like being heroes and knowing that most of them are going to die, getting off a boat and dying, and then that's it. That's all they've ever lived in their entire life. And suddenly I got enamored with reading stories of heroism in war. I've talked about it on my show before. I might have mentioned on a Veterans Day last year, Memorial Day. Bookshelf behind me is full of books on true stories. I started reading up on the 101st Airborne, which was from Band of Brothers, which I watch twice a year. One of the most amazing leadership stories you could ever watch. For you entrepreneurs out there listening or watching, it's an amazing story. I think every episode is a learning lesson in leadership. But when I heard about the anthem, and I heard about everything going back and forth between, no, he shouldn't do it, or it's a shame that he did it, and it's terrible, and he's an awful person, and then some people coming forward and saying, well, we're going to do it too, and then veterans standing up, paralyzed veterans standing up, it's created this phenomenon around this more of a media frenzy around this thing this song, this theme of our country that's been around forever. It's played at every ball game, every sporting event. You've heard it before. You stand up when you hear it. You put your hand on your chest. You take your hat off. The armed forces, they actually stand up and they salute. Which I don't know why I didn't miss. I always think I miss my calling. That my entire family is all in the military, but I've always been jealous of the fact that they can salute. They earned that right to salute the flag. I have some friends that are Marines that have done. Been to Memorial Day services, and they do that. I don't know if it's a solidarity thing, but every time I go to a sporting event and remembering and understanding that there are people that died. It's not that they petitioned to get that anthem; they died for that, for us to play that anthem. And I stand up, and every time at that last verse of the song, I well up every time. Every time I well up, and it's a sacred thing, and that's something that we don't really pay attention to anymore. We don't hold anything sacred anymore, and to me, that anthem is sacred. And I know, Colin, you decided to sit down, and you decided not to stand, and I don't know if you're still doing that. There's an article I'm going to post a link in the show notes that you can. There you go. See, I started using show notes. You can access this article that they quoted, some folks quoted people in the NFL saying we got to get rid of him because he's doing nothing but tarnishing the NFL. And think about it, this whole guy, he just wanted to make a point and express his freedom to do this, which is weird. And he's going to lose his job. He could lose his job, which is such a shame. He's probably got a family and everything just like me. But everybody has a story. Everybody makes choices. Everyone has an opportunity to put their thumbprint on the world, whether it be activism, whether it be protesting, whatever it is. But I don't know if he made the right choice. I hope he learns to live with that choice, and I hope he can get a job or play some, in something. But I respect anyone who respects him. I respect anyone who doesn't. But to me, stupid burgers. Oh, God. Sorry. Got to get a drink of water. All right, cool. All right, we're at 15. Down to the wire. I think it's appropriate to always remember that we are Americans. I'm doing for the YouTube viewers, I'm doing my thumb, my Clinton. Every time that song plays, it is an opportunity for us to take a step back and understand every stinking freedom we have. There's no ceasefires happening where I can get to go outside and go to the store, but then when I get back in my house, the war starts again. That doesn't happen here. And yet, some people maybe decide whether it be at another sporting event in the recent days or a high school event where they decide to kneel down or not salute the flag. Guys, just get off your ass and do it. Think of something else to do. Think of something more that you can do to make a bigger difference. Charity work, something that you can do to make a bigger difference other than disrespecting this sacred song that we have that I well up listening to, that's sacred to me every time I hear it because of who died to get here. And find something else. Find a different way of making your point, because all you're going to do is piss people off. And then the reality is that's all you're going to be remembered for. That sucks. That's your legacy, dude. That just sucks. So think twice before you do something. However, I respect you for doing it, which is crazy. Episode 43. Dewey, my pal Dewey. He's been a co-host of the show for a while. He owns a business. He owns actually a business that's a sports conditioning business and a martial arts business. One of his instructors, who's been a student of his for some time, is basically the 20-year-old version of me. So tomorrow night, we're going to be recording episode 43 from his studio, but that'll post a week from now, a week from the time this show gets on. And the YouTube video will be up this Thursday, and you can listen to that. His name's Bruce Seddon. I'm so excited to basically see me in my 20s, but the topic is really going to be understanding how does a 20-year-old get nostalgia from things that I grew up doing? And I don't get that. I'm really getting to the deep down and dirty about what makes a millennial tick and how nostalgia works. And then we'll see where it goes. It'll be like looking in a mirror 20 years ago. But I'm looking forward to you being on the show, Bruce. If you haven't already subscribed, and this is the first time you're seeing this or the first time you're watching on YouTube, remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel because you'll get these every time. Sign up for the notifications. Rate the show on iTunes. And you can follow me at Dependent_Nick on Twitter. Most of my community now is on Twitter, but you can follow us on Facebook, our Facebook page, at the Dependent Independent Podcast page. Please feel free to post things. We post our shows first on those pages. So if you are a subscriber or a follower of that Facebook page, you'll always get that. You can email the show at thedependentindependent@gmail.com. You can see that article in the show notes. See, I'm using the show notes. I appreciate all the feedback all these podcasters have been giving me since the podcast convention. Hopefully I can do my part in applying them. And thank you for all the ratings and the positive feedback you've given me. Hopefully I can pay it forward. This is MiniSode 42.5 of the TDI Podcast, and I am out.